Hello and welcome to the Plant Paradigm podcast, where we have inspiring conversations with amazing people from all around the world and look for ways to create a clean, green and sustainable future for us, the planet and all beings. I'm your host, Tom Simak, a fellow plant eater who strives to optimize every living ecosystem. Passionate about this beautiful floating rock we call home and all the lovely creatures that dwell among it. Today's conversation features an amazing storyteller with an incredible story, Jake OBrien. I don't want to spoil too much about Jake's story because he's much better at telling it and is more suited to as well. But I will say it involves mental resilience and cancer. Because of the topic of cancer, I will give a trigger warning here. Whilst this is a feel-good episode and full of amazing gems, if you have been directly or indirectly affected by this disease, this conversation might bring up some really deep and personal feelings. And if you are not really ready to feel that, then this might not be the right time for you to listen to this episode. It'll always be here, so you can always circle back to this chat in the future. Jake is a model and a health fanatic who is hugely passionate about mental health. I was actually talking to Jansen Andre, who I had on the pod last year, who said I really had to meet this guy. So I thank Jance for the link up. Jake is such a genuine legend who's trying to spread such a loving, real and raw message. Amongst the different things we'll be talking about, again, this might seem a little bit random given the theme of the podcast is very much surrounded around plant nutrition and climate mitigation. But I think amongst that, we can't do anything unless we have our mental health as sharp as it could be, because that will really help us think clearer and be healthier as a society to then be able to deal with very alarming and urgent issues such as the climate crisis. OBrien and I. Jake OBrien, the legend himself. How are you going?
Mate, I'm pretty good. Thank you so much for asking. How are you?
I'm doing so good. I saw you smash the workout this just before actually. How'd you go?
Good. Yeah, I'm really enjoying training at the moment. Just training kind of really instinctively. Stopped following any kind of program at the minute. I've got a bunch of niggles that have kind of just re-flared up really badly. So yeah, just backing things off and kind of cruising, which is good.
Are you working out like every day? What's the go?
Yeah, most days. Well, yeah, probably like 6 days or so.
And are you just in the gym or you're like incorporating some sort of running, swimming or cardio? What's your philosophy on all that?
I'm not a big runner, swimmer, cardio kind of guy. I have had a dodgy knee my whole life, so running's never been something I've been able to enjoy. I want to enjoy it, and I've tried doing I've incorporated sprinting before, like little sprinting intervals down at the park and stuff, which I like, the explosive kind of aspects of that. But yeah, not really like long distance or, anything. If I'm doing cardio, it's probably like on the bike. I like riding my pushy because that doesn't hurt my knees. But yeah, it's pretty bad actually. I've got this condition called osteochondritis dissecans, where it's basically like early onset arthritis. And the tip of my femur is just breaking apart if I am too nasty to it. So yeah, it's pretty hardcore, but it's been a bit of a blessing, to be honest, because it's kind of, not many people know this, but I'm actually a chef originally. That was kind of my first job. Spent about 5-6 years becoming a qualified chef and working around Australia. But my knee got so swollen and sore that I had to kind of come home and get it operated on and change careers and get off my feet, so to speak. And it led me down a really cool path. So you never know what's going to happen. Yeah.
Is the knee issue, is that completely separate to the accident you had?
Yes, the knee issue is its own problem that I've had since I was like 10. It's re-flared up again now, probably because my toes and stuff aren't doing that job properly and it's putting more pressure in the other joints. But yeah, it's a separate issue.
Maybe you're just squatting too much, mate.
Maybe. Yeah, it's frustrating because I'm like so focused on my form and everything, and it's just still a problem. So yeah, no running in short.
I can imagine the frustration, especially because you clearly love fitness. I remember when I first got I got runner's knee from just lack of stretching and just waking up 5:30, 6 a.m. in the morning, just going for like a 5-10K run and just no mobility training at all. And just my whole ITB just flared up to the point where for weeks and months, it hurt to walk. And I'm like, I was so frustrated because it's like you do everything you can or that you know how to be healthy. Like you exercise, you try to eat right. And then it's like, nope, not good enough.
Yeah, no, totally frustrating as hell. Yeah, especially in joints that it's like, yeah, anything from like hips down is so annoying because you're like,
because you kind of need it.
Yeah, you need it to get around. So, oh well, I'm all right.
Yeah, that's all right. Look, I actually didn't know that you were a chef before, so that's a really cool thing to learn. But it kind of explains all the amazing meals that I see you cooking up on like your Insta stories and stuff like that. Is there something that you love to cook? Because I know this whole concept of like plant-based eating is kind of new to you. Relatively speaking, sort of. Is there something that you used to cook back in like years ago that you've really wanted to incorporate now, or something that you've really loved cooking up these last few weeks or months or however long?
I like simple food with like, good whole foods that don't contain animal products. It's like not that hard to make pretty much anything that you used to make and just either using a meat substitute or just nothing at all. So I know like lasagna is really nice. I do a really nice vegetarian lasagna, but that's more like a special thing around Christmas and stuff. Other than that, like, Mexican food, as you saw last night, and that was delicious. I make that all the time. It's literally, I've got like 3 ingredients in it and it's so yummy and fulfilling and got heaps of nutrients in it. And something in particular, not really, to be honest. Like, I can literally just pull out a block of tofu and eat it plain and I don't really care.
Really?
Personally. Yeah, I don't mind. Like, I don't really, like, I have the capability to make a fully fancy meal, but I just don't really do it that much anymore. I'm more about like cooking something that's going to, stretch out a little bit further, get a few more meals out of, and I kind of skip on the fancy little garnishes and stuff like that these days. But yeah, if I needed to, I could.
I love it. Look, keeping it simple is sometimes the best way to go because especially with some of these recipes that we see on like TikTok and stuff, like they can get so complicated and long and it's like, oh my God, just give me a sandwich. Like,
no, I'm not really into. The most complicated thing I'll have is a smoothie that's just got like a teaspoon of this and that and this and that, like all different powders and stuff. But that's not. It's a bit different. Yeah,
I love it. Now let's dive into what I actually really want to get into today, which is a lot about your story and I guess where you come from. And I know you've shared it across multiple platforms, but I think, I wanted to get you to touch on it again because I do think it's very impactful. Your whole story with mindset and how you got to where you are today. So can you please share what, I guess, curveballs life has thrown at you these past few years?
Sure. Before I get started, I definitely want to note that like, I'm definitely not outie. I don't want any sympathy or any of that from anyone. I hate, like sometimes I feel like I'm coming across like a bit of a crybaby kind of thing, which is not my intention at all. I just think I decided to recently open up about some of my not so positive feelings recently online, and that kind of just gained heaps of attention and momentum. And so I was like, oh, this is cool and valuable and needed. And because so much of what we see is just everyone's, best days and best moments. And I've been a culprit myself. So I just kind of changed directions a little bit and it seemed to resonate with a lot of people. And I think if you kind of, I'm not whinging, I'm just saying what happened and how I felt and blah, blah, blah. And I think that can help people be a little bit more empathetic maybe to, not only my story, but like other people and what they might have gone through. And because you never really know, So Anyway, so how long have we got?
Matt, as long as you need.
Yeah.
And as long as deep as you want to go, you could just touch the surface. You could dive in. It's completely up to you how you'd like to roll with it. The platform's kind of yours to take direction.
Okay. Let me think. I guess we can kind of break it into three main parts. Number one being kind of my upbringing and how that helped me to perceive and act in this big, crazy world. Number two, the recent somewhat kind of traumatic experiences that, did happen to me. And number three, the effort I kind of put into overcoming these events while deciding to open up about some of the stuff that, otherwise stays behind closed doors. And I think that's ultimately why I've caught the attention of people such as yourself and whatever. So, firstly, my upbringing was, good, but definitely challenging. Curveballs started from there. Just to scratch the surface, I guess the main thing was I had a single mum and she was, trying her best already. And then I had this stepdad kind of come into my life for about 5-6 years, and he became kind of my only kind of role model as a kid and my main role model. And he just became a drug addict at by the time I was hitting high school, and really kind of messed around with my family dynamic at home, and it was ugly, and that was when I was, a very malleable age, I suppose, 14 years old, you should have some stability at home, and I just didn't really have that. So, I guess from a very early age, I took on the responsibility of kind of man of the house, which, is good, but it can also be quite toxic because later in life, I kind of held on to that belief that, I constantly needed to hustle. And that if I wasn't hustling and wasn't being, the man of the house, so to speak, whether I was, living at home by myself or not, or with my parents or with a partner, it didn't really matter. I was always like nonstop. And I think it just becomes a bit toxic when you start thinking that you're not worth it until you reach X, or, you don't mean anything to anyone until you've achieved such and such. And that's something that I've kind of worked out recently that, has been an issue my whole life. It's been useful, but also detrimental to my mental health. So that's number one. My upbringing kind of set me up to kind of feel like that. And then number two, the recent stuff that happened was, really fucking hard, man. I had, as you know my story, but for your listeners, basically in 2018, I was in a big motorcycle accident. Lady cut me off while I was going about 60 Ks in the bus lane, as you're allowed to. And she just quickly veered into the side street and went straight in front of me without indicating or anything. And I just smashed into the side of her car at 60 odd Ks an hour and broke my neck and broke my foot and collapsed my lungs. And I had some pretty serious injuries and got rushed off to hospital. And it was about a year long worth of rehab and recovery, which was very challenging in itself. I got a spinal fusion. I could no longer rotate my neck. I was right at the peak of my fitness as well. Like in 2018, I look back on like videos and stuff I've got in my stories archive, and I was like so strong, like really good at calisthenics and really on a good roll. And that just kind of, put it all to a big stop. Kept that hustle mentality and kept trotting along and trying to, I guess, recover as fast as possible and get back into normal life, because I just couldn't stand being being somewhat disabled and stuck. And it was just, I didn't enjoy it. Got back into work as soon as possible. And I was about 3 months into reopening my personal training. I was a personal trainer. And you might notice by now my voice is quite husky. That's because I've actually just been dealing with cancer for the last year. I have I got diagnosed with laryngeal cancer right at the start of 2020, I think it was, January 2020. It was quite funny. I was actually meant to MC at my best mate's wedding at the very end of 2019. He'd asked me at the start of the year. I said, yeah, no worries, love to. And then got to the wedding, and like by the time the wedding rolled around, I could barely talk. I sounded like Batman after a week-long bender.
Yeah.
It was ugly. That's kind of the traumatic stuff is a near-death motorcycle accident, and then the challenge of cancer as a young bloke, which has been really rough, man. So it's my larynx, so my voice box. So it's very much so, it's not like in my leg or somewhere random. Like it's in somewhere that you can feel it and notice it, and people around you can notice it. And I never had chemo or anything, so my hair didn't fall out. I have had radiotherapy, and we can go into some of the other treatments that I did, which I think tie nicely into your podcast, such as the fasting protocol and just really tightening up my diet. But ultimately, I needed radiotherapy. Clear of cancer now, but I have heard that before. They did operate on it twice, both times saying that, you're clear of cancer, and it just grew back. And now radio's just finished, and I've just recently, about a month ago, been told I'm clear again, which is great. And I made a kind of announcement on my socials, but it's still, I'm now I'm involved in these cancer awareness groups and stuff on Facebook, and a lot of people kind of talk about the effects of cancer after you've kind of gotten through it, and I'm kind of living with that now. It's like you kind of through it, and you feel like yay, but it's also fucking scary because it can come back and bite you whenever it does. Like there's no guarantee that it's not going to come back. So once again, as I said at the start, don't want to come across like a whinging or anything like that, but this is just like the real life that I'm living at the moment. Recently kind of gave up the big dream of getting back to work as a personal trainer, kind of resigned from my job, and just kind of working it all out very slowly. You've caught me like in the middle of transitioning. I've got a new career lined up as a massage therapist. I'm nearly finished my diploma doing that. But for the moment, it's kind of like it's all up in the air a little bit, man. So, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that with us. I'm curious as to know if at one stage, during the recovery or currently, or even as it happened, if you were kind of getting sucked into like, holy crap, I'll never get out of this. Like, were you ever in that hole of I might never be, or I will never be the same as I was before? And if you got out of that?
Well, good question. I think I refer to this hole you speak of as my pity pit. And the pity pit is somewhere that, we can go and have a bit of emotional reflection, but also just kind of sit in our own sadness and let all those feelings of inadequacy and I'm not this and my life sucks and blah, blah, blah. That space is real, and humans have this huge emotional spectrum that we experience. And so much of that experience is just kind of invalidated by what we see online mostly, I think. I did spend quite a few moments in that pity pit, feeling like I wouldn't get out of this and life wouldn't be the same. And in parts, some of it's true, but in parts there's been, opportunity for taking new directions and growth. And, every challenge that we have is a opportunity to grow, as they say. So, that pit is real, man. But you gotta allow yourself to sit in it for as long as you need sometimes. But learn not to sit in it forever, because it's not very productive. It's good to reflect, but it's not productive to reflect and dwell, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I mean, you have this like mentality that is obviously always getting sharpened and getting better. And it's a lot of the reason I believe, like just looking from the outside in and having, only met you a small number of times, or talked to you, sorry, a small amount of times, but what did you do to sharpen that mindset? Are you just bringing it to your upbringing, or is it like listening to like your Tony Robbins of the world and things like audio books? Like, what are you doing to sharpen that mentality?
Mate, I think a big thing, like I don't know where most of your listeners are from, but we're in Australia. Australia's fucking awesome with its mental health system. I learned a lot of my sharpening tools from my therapist. I personally got I'm getting free therapy through my insurance because I was not at fault. But I also saw a therapist before any of this happened. And that was probably where I learned most of these assets. And it's all available to anyone. If you're, the healthiest guy out there, but, you're still a bit sad, you can go and get counseling for free, and they can be awesome. So that's probably a big part of where I learned many of my tools and kind of just got a better comprehension of why I might act a certain way and react a certain way to certain things. I think when you become a little bit more self-aware and then you're given some tools to work with, it can be much easier to come across as, someone that can handle that shit a lot better. You know what I mean? Like I used to, for example, be quite kind of short fused, to be honest, like have quite a short, like I'd get quite angry and frustrated at things quite quickly and easily. And I never kind of really got why. But then my therapist kind of like put it all in perspective and explained this whole theory of this anger iceberg thing and just tied a lot of my upbringing together into how I was kind of responding to certain things that I was coming into our sessions talking about. And she's like, you fit into this category and this is why you do. And it's like really nice to be able to just put it all out on the table and have someone kind of help you arrange it and make it all make logical sense. So then you can, look at it for what it is and be a little bit less judgmental in yourself for being a certain way. And understanding that your emotions aren't bad or good. They're just signals as such, like you're on the right path or you're doing the wrong thing here or changes up a little bit. So,
That kind of ties perfectly into what I had in mind for the next question, which is, you touched on therapy and you're touching on emotions, and we're also both male. And obviously when it comes to emotions and these kinds of things, I think it's quite stigmatized, a lot less so now, but I think a lot of people, it still is very, I guess, iffy to talk about. How did you deal with the feelings of, I guess, wanting to share your feelings or having that courage to step outside on social media and sharing that without being, I guess, labeled as being this girly, feminine figure, and you still stayed true to you and you don't think there is a stigma attached to that? How did you conquer that?
Excuse me, my Christian Bale, excessive huskiness. It came to me from meditation. I was kind of just through the worst of everything. And up until that point, I'd kind of been like, here's what I'm doing that's proactive. I'm juice fasting. I'm still training. Look at me. I'm a badass, blah, blah, blah. And then, so I had this like underlying thing inside me that's like, I'm being a fake cunt. Excuse me. I'm being a fake person and it doesn't feel authentic. And I don't like feeling unauthentic. It just doesn't sit well with me. So that was kind of there for a long time, if you know what I mean. Because I was dealing with depression and anxiety and I was pretending like I wasn't, I wasn't pretending like I wasn't, but I wasn't showing those parts of me because, you just kind of figure that's not what people want to see. Anyway, I was meditating this day and I was kind of just thinking about everything that had happened. And I just kind of had this moment of like, let's call it gratitude. I was just like, fuck, I'm so grateful that car hit me, and I'm so grateful that I got cancer because it's literally made me into such a badass. And I don't care about, I kind of like, I'm through the worst of it, and I feel strong for it, and I'm stoked to be me and to have all this behind me and so much potential in front of me. And I just felt really, really grateful. So I was kind of like ready to express, if that makes sense. Something kind of said like, mate, tell the world about how hard it's been, but then tell them how excited you are to keep moving forward. And yeah, part of it being hard for me was dealing with suicide a couple of times. I got quite close to being another statistic, mate. And I think on the surface, I don't look like that. And so many people probably look to me as this, like I follow quite a lot of fitness accounts on social media, and I look up to them, and I'm like, I feel a bit inadequate sometimes. Like, they are so jacked and happy and have great businesses. And I kind of like, there's a very fine line between inspiration and jealousy. And I think I wanted to let people know that, it's normal to be on the edge. So many blokes are, so many people are, men especially though. Like 4 in 5 suicides in Australia are like young Australian males, like 18 to 28 or something. And it's like staggering figures, and you just don't hear about it. It's just not talked about at all. So there's obviously so many of us suffering and just not really saying anything. So I thought, screw this, I'm going to say something. And I did, and just a little post on it, and it just kind of went a little bit viral, to be honest. I was like, wow, this shit like hits people properly. And so just kind of automatically thought, well, I'll put the boots on of being a bit of an advocate for mental health. And I'm not sure where it's going to take me just yet. I think I might even, further my education in this space and see where it might lead. But yeah, I think that's the long answer. Is it was just like a feeling that it was the right thing to do, and it felt like the right time to do it. So
I love that. And thank you for sharing all that. Yeah. I know for a lot of people, and I can't speak for yourself, but that could be pretty hard to share. For some people, it is pretty, pretty hard to listen to as well. So I will say, I have said it, I will say it in the intro of the episode, but I will say it again. I'm just going to leave the number for Lifeline in the description. So for anyone who is struggling, please do check that out. I'll try to find a source for Americans. I'm not too familiar, and Europeans with their numbers, but I'll try to find a source for you guys as well. But I want to step a little bit sideways and look towards, the outskirts of all the things and all your emotions, which is what you came across in order to heal, which is, like you mentioned in the beginning, a bit of fasting and a bit of power of plants and all that kind of stuff that really came to help, which is awesome. So how did you initially stumble onto like what plants can do? And that could be plant-based diet and plant medicines and all these different things.
Yeah. Well, I've been kind of toying with vegetarianism, veganism, plant-based eating for a long time. I think, I've committed to it before for like a year at a time, and then kind of fallen off the bandwagon and eaten a normal kind of diet. I've never fully claimed to be vegan or been, but definitely in the last few years, especially since meeting my current partner, who has never eaten any meat in her entire life.
Wow.
She's just never even chewed on a piece of meat ever. So being with her has definitely encouraged me to step out of that normal space. A lot due to just circumstances, the people around me. But because I've always like been interested in being as healthy as possible, I've always stuck to a mainly whole food plant-based diet automatically anyway, because I think that's the healthiest diet for me. In the process, I've discovered that, it's obviously better for the planet and better for the fact that it's very, very cruel what we do to other beings on this planet as humans. It's disgusting, actually. And I guess I kind of look through those three main lenses of my own health, planetary health, and the animal welfare. But as far as your question, how was I introduced to, what was it you were asking? How did I?
Like what kind of led you to think, hey, this plant-based thing, that could be like for me, and it could be an option that I can use to make my body heal and get better?
Yeah. So I think that's just naturally progress, man. Like the more open you are to receiving that information, the more you're going to learn. And I'm not going to sit here and act like a scientist and spit out facts of whatever, but I've watched a lot of documentaries on all the different aspects of it, and I'm just like inspired to eat like that, you know? I think it's the best way to eat. But with my cancer battle, my good friend actually just reached out because his family member was also going through cancer, and he's very much so in the vegan space, and is into all his herbs and fasting and all that. And I was very blessed to have a good friend who kind of shared a lot of really valuable information with me. There's a documentary out called The Truth About Cancer. That's got a lot of stuff about different plant alternatives and whatnot that you can incorporate. And pretty much I was just fucking scared of the Western approach because they either cut it out, burn it out, or poison your body. It's like dropping a napalm bomb on a forest to try and kill the ants. You know, you destroy everything along with it. So, you know, before I got radiation, they were like, here's the side effects. Your teeth might fall out. You might, you know, your chances of cancer coming back in future are higher, blah, blah, blah. Just all these horrible sounding things. So I guess the inspiration came from trying to avoid Western approach as much as possible, or prolong it as much as possible. And also just give my body the best chance it had to beat this thing. So, I think the biggest thing that I tried was the long-term water fasting.
Talk to me about that. I want to hear.
So I did a little course with a guy named Sinclair from the Fasting Healing Within. I don't know if you know those boys. They're a couple of legends, two brothers. I think he went like 40 days on just water, I think.
Whoa.
Or was it just juice? 40 days. I think it might have been water, 40 days. Out in the jungle somewhere, he just drank nothing but water and just lied down for 40 days. It was insane.
Yeah.
Anyway, those guys taught me heaps about just basically how the liver works and different systems in the body, and how they don't really get the chance to do that job properly while they're dealing with the constant influx of toxins that we put into our body. Even on a plant-based diet, you know, it's still stuff that your body has to process. And when you've got cancer, you want your body to be focusing on trying to eliminate those cells rather than digesting things and, you know, whatever else it's doing. And I was on a lot of other medications as well. So, I was very drawn to the idea of detoxing my body as much as possible and allowing it to heal itself naturally if it could do so. So I did fasting and vitamin C infusions, which is like meant to oxidize any radical cells or whatever. I can't quite rattle off the science behind it, but I basically used fasting as part of my battle. I tried to incorporate as many things as possible that would help. And detoxifying the body was probably the biggest thing to do. And that was done through, a 2-week-long juice fast, followed by, I think I did 7 days on just water. I would have probably gotten longer. I actually was aiming for 2 weeks, but didn't quite get there. I did try again a few months later and got about 4 days in. In the end, the cancer was still there, so I had to go ahead with other treatment. But I definitely felt like it was kind of like, it's hard to explain, but I felt brand new. You know what I mean? The cells in my body had just completely regenerated, and I felt like I was able to breathe better. I had kind of all my current knee niggle going on. Like I couldn't feel any of that. It was like I felt fully healed. I just still had cancer. But like I think that set my body up to be able to handle the radiation better and, recover faster. And yeah, so something like that, mate.
I love that. I'm curious as to if you were scared to try this fasting and the water and the juice fasting in case it could agitate the cancer. Like, was that a thing that you were worried about?
People say sugar is bad for cancer and then fruit's full of sugar. So, but that myth's been debunked. Cancer just likes to eat whatever it can. If you're on a keto diet, it'll eat fat, like it'll eat whatever it needs. But no, I don't think I was scared of my diet making that big of an impact on what I was doing on my recovery. I know my diet didn't really play a role in starting it, I'm pretty sure. So I didn't think it was my diet that was going to be, the be all and end all solution or agitate the problem further. So no, wasn't scared. No. Pretty open-minded, man. I'll try whatever. I'll try it all, really. So
is there anything left that you want to try?
Definitely not carnivore. I don't think that one is a good diet unless you're a cat. Left to try. No, I'd like to try long dry fast. I haven't tried that yet.
A dry fast?
Yeah, that's when you do no liquid, no water or anything. You can do it for like up to 4 days, I think, is the recommended maximum time to do a dry fast. And then you like ease back into it by drinking juice. But I'm on a bit of a different path, to be honest. Fasting and all that's really cool, but I don't want to get too skinny. I like being a little bit bigger and beefier, and I'm trying to put weight back on. So yeah, fasting's good for healing and rejuvenating. And I think everyone on this planet can benefit from doing a few fasts a year. And I'm definitely going to keep it in my repertoire of things I do to keep healthy. And yeah, there's so much information out there. So,
speaking on health, before we move on to another topic, is there any kind of exercises or like, obviously you've got the experience now as a PT, you clearly work out quite a fair bit. For someone that's wanting to get into working out or into fitness or into health, any of these things, or mobility, what exercises or potentially philosophies do you have that you think could help anyone?
See, this is the challenging part of being a PT. It's not really about the exercises, and it is more so the philosophy that you have with taking care of yourself. For me, it was just kind of automatic. I was actually quite fat, unhealthy, and displeased with my body as a teenager. And so I always kind of had I hit my teens and I had something to prove to someone. So I just, since then, it's like not an option not to keep fit. So I find it quite strange when I get these clients that are like, 50 years old or so and have literally never stepped in a gym in their life. I'm like, how's that even possible? I really don't quite understand. So, but advice for someone that's thinking about trying training that's never done it before would be just get in there, what's the paralysis by analysis, where you just worry too much about what you're doing and you don't do anything. That's probably the worst thing you can do. Go to any old gym. They're going to have heaps of machines. Just jump on some machines, push, pull, legs. That's all you need to do, go for a walk, do some of the exercises and some of the machines and you'll be fine, yes, technique and all that stuff comes into the equation when you start, lifting heavier weights and all that. But mate, if you're just starting out, just get in there and do something. It really doesn't have to be technical at all. If your heart's beating a little bit faster and you feel a little bit of burning sensation in your muscles, 2 thumbs up,
I love that. I love how simple you make that.
It doesn't have to be hard. It really doesn't. And as you progress and you feel like drawn to certain types of training and stuff, that all comes with time. And, mine's changed heaps over the years with what I've had interest in. And just let it kind of go, like, just one step at a time, just get in there, just get your blood flowing. That's it.
I love it. I want to draw back to social media for a second. Now, you're quite active on there and obviously use it as a tool to share your emotions and your story and actually be social with other people. I want to know, do you use and how do you think of social media and what can we do to use it as a positive tool?
It's quite easy to use as a positive tool, really. Just don't be a dick. It's just like normal life. Like there's so many trolls out there and stuff just saying negative things on people's, I get it a little bit, not too much, because obviously my story is a bit sappy, so people are pretty nice to me. But
yeah,
there's definitely some trolls out there. Using it in a positive way, I suppose for me, it's always just been a reflection of kind of what I'm up to at the time. Before I was a PT, it was just, my travel kind of vlog thing. As I became a PT, it was just a space for me to, share stuff that my clients were achieving or, exercises that I liked, blah, blah, blah. And now post all this accident and stuff, I've kind of rebranded it just to be my name, just Jake OBrien. And it's just stuff that I enjoy and stuff that brings me happiness or thoughts that I'm having or, just stuff that I think I want to kind of express. It's just a nice place to be artistic and expressive. And I think as, the world kind of continues to develop into this big, super connected space that we're so actually not connected at all because we're all glued to our phones, it can be a powerful tool to connect with a super big audience. And if you're, into painting or into writing poems, like, put that stuff out there. I think people really like just what you're interested in. Like people reflect with passion, I feel is like the kind of main thing. And if you're passionate about literally anything and you want to show it to people, don't be shy, just go for it. Like, I think that's kind of all I use it for is just to express stuff that I'm passionate about. And as it grows, it evolves as you do. And I think that's the most positive way that we can use it is everyone has their little things that they like to do. And for me, it's fitness and health. And that's kind of what I share. So, it comes across passionate. Sometimes like I'm now signed up with an agency and I'm doing some other things with my social and, sometimes a brand wants to collab and I'm like, it just does not sit well with me. And I don't feel like it ties nicely into my messaging. So no, I don't want your money and I'm not going to collab with you or whatever. And learning. I don't know if most people have that going on, but I think being careful not to sell out is really important. It's a funny space of social media, isn't it? How do you think, Tom, we can use social media in a positive way? What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, I'm being asked the question back.
Yeah, you had me rattling on all day long.
I actually really like your response. I think when we hear, don't be a sellout, I think that people think that means you can't make money on social media. And if you do, you're a sellout. I think that is a dangerous mentality. I think
agreed.
if you're adding value and you believe what you're promoting, and that could be a free product, that could be a paid product or a service, that doesn't matter. If you're making money off something that genuinely adds value and you believe, and like you said, you're passionate about, I don't think you can be called a sellout. I think that's quite unfair because I saw this post the other day on Facebook in a Facebook group of this podcast I listened to. The comment said, where is the complaints department of this free content that you're giving us? It's like you cannot complain for someone, a lot of people, social media is something you put a lot of energy into. Creating content, taking the photos, thinking of the captions and potentially conquering fear and putting a lot of thought into the captions. I think a lot of people take that for granted. And when you come across a good, genuine person on social media, because there is a person on the other side, I'm sure sometimes there's bots and stuff like that. But I think people need to really appreciate the person that's actually behind there, especially if they're providing you with free, valuable content out of their own time that they don't have to. And it's okay that they're building a brand, and it's okay that they're doing this, but they're using a content to share that opinion. You could use positivity, could also stem from, hey, I'm going to talk about animal ethics or the environment or health or whatever you feel. But I think it's just appreciating it and really understanding that a lot of time has gone into that. So that's my opinion, just ringing off what you think.
Yeah, well
but I
said.
think it's really important.
Yeah, people don't often, I think, it's very frustrating when I put like my heart and soul into writing something that's really meaningful for me, and then someone turns around and goes, "Cool shirt, bro," and I'm like, "Fuck, that's not the point." Like, you know, whatever. It is what it is, and it doesn't also matter about. I think we get very caught up in, you know, what are people responding and saying, and likes and comments and all that crap. We get a little bit caught up in that, but like, you know, it might be that one or two people that read what you've put down that really resonates and changes their day. Like that kind of, it gives, yeah, that's kind of why I do it. I think it's like, if I can hit that one or two people really well, then you might not even know about it. But I think, you know, I've got quite a large audience now. So knowing that something might really have a relatively profound impact on their day, yeah, it's worth putting in that effort, you know.
I love that. Look, it's been an absolute pleasure to get to know you and your story, and I love it all, and your mentality is absolutely king. Look, coming towards the end of the episode, I want to give you the same opportunity I give every other guest I have on this show, which is to culminate some Jake O'Brien wisdom and share it with us. It could be related to what we were talking about. It could be something completely different that you've been thinking about altogether. But for the next few minutes or seconds, I want to give you the platform to just speak your mind on whatever you'd like.
Oh, how nerve-wracking and exciting and uncomfortable. Love that. love being uncomfortable. Wisdom. I'm not very wise, so you're not going to get much out of me.
I think you sell yourself short, mate.
I think I'm just joking. I think I'm pretty wise beyond my years. I think my biggest takeaway that I've gotten from the last few years of having a bit of a rough time is that, being more compassionate is so fucking important. Not being sympathetic to people, but being compassionate to people is, you know, literally at the pinnacle of human existence. If you're able to see the world through someone else's eyes, then you can understand how they might feel and why they might look or be a certain way, and not judging, but literally be compassionate for literally everyone. I had at one stage, after my spinal fusion, I had this day, I woke up from this sleep and so I can't move. At this stage, my neck has just been operated on and I cannot move at all. I can't sit up. I can't rotate my head. I'm being pumped full of morphine. I feel all the pain because I've been on opioids for 6 months prior to anyway, before the surgery. So I was a mess. And I had like a bad reaction and I just vomited straight up into the air and it just came straight down in my face. It was putrid and it just stank and it was horrible. And I could like barely, and I eventually got this, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning or something. I eventually got the nurse's attention and I was like, literally, please help. I'm covered in my own vomit. I can't move. This is horrible. And she was like, okay, I'll help. And like pondered off, came back maybe 15 minutes later with one tissue. And I was like, so mad at her for taking so long and coming back with not enough tissues. Or like, I literally needed a full-on couple of towels, you know. And I was grumpy at it. But then, the next 2 days later or something, I was like, maybe she was having a really, really hard day herself and blah, blah, blah. And I was able to drop being grumpy at her. And that was nice for me. If I ever met her again, it'd be nicer for her. And, you know, it's probably true. You know, she probably didn't mean to take 15 minutes because she's a horrible person, which was my initial thought, which was judging her from her action, which is, you know, fair enough. But also there's always more to it. You know, everyone's got their own story and their own hardships and their own battles and their own stuff that they're passionate about. their own reasons behind why they're passionate about things. And, I've got mates that I'm not as close with anymore because they probably don't have enough compassion for me and why I enjoy fitness and how it helps with my mental health. And, they're all at the pub drinking beers and I'm just not like that anymore. So, stuff like that. I think the world is just such a better place when we're all a bit more compassionate. That's where a lot of veganism comes from, is being compassionate to animals, which is amazing. That's probably my bit of wisdom. Have some more compassion, no matter where you go, who you're talking to, whatever you're doing. You just never know. So don't be too quick to judge.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom. And on behalf of both myself as a human and the Plant Paradigm community, I really want to thank you for, being a light on social media and sharing your thoughts. I mean, I can say that also as a guy. I really appreciate you sharing your emotions and breaking that stigma that we do have, considering those stats that you mentioned before. And I know how hard it must have been, especially at the beginning, to share your feelings of vulnerability. So I really appreciate that. And I can only imagine how many people that's impacted alongside yourself. So thank you very much for all of your story and your wisdom, Mr. Jake. So if we want to connect with you,
Thanks,
where do we
man.
go?
I've been forced to start using TikTok, but that's just for a bit of fun. No, I'm on Instagram at Jake OBrien, literally just my name. It used to be something else, and then I actually wanted it as something very simple, and I searched Jake OBrien, and it was taken by this person that wasn't really using it. So I just messaged him saying, "Can I have your handle?" And he said, "Sure, no worries." So
They just gave it to you?
Yeah, he said that's fine, and I think there was a 2-week turnaround. So yeah, if you're out there and you want something simple, maybe just look for your name and politely ask the person. So yeah, just JAKE OBrien, OBrien, and that's it.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today, Jake.
My pleasure, buddy. Have a beautiful afternoon. Thanks heaps for listening, everyone, if you've got to the end of this. And have a good day, everyone.
Hi there. Welcome to the end of the episode. Thank you to Jake once again for coming on and sharing this insightful and powerful conversation. If you want to connect with him, as always, I will leave all the links in the show notes, and you can also go to the show notes to connect with us over at Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, etc. Again, the topics we touched on today's episode can be quite deep, powerful, and triggering. So I have left some details for Lifeline through different continents and the most popular options available in the show notes below. So if you are struggling with mental health, please seek out advice, talk to friends, family, or counselors. But that is all from me today. Until next week's episode, stay happy, eat plants, peace.